In this podcast episode, the guest, Luke Caverns, introduces himself as an anthropologist who studies the origins of civilization. He explains that he comes from a family with a history of searching for lost treasures, particularly Spanish gold mines. Caverns's family had a farm in Drieden, Texas, where they discovered a lost gold mine in the late 1800s. They spent years searching for more lost gold mines, but faced setbacks during the Great Depression. Caverns's father continued the search for lost treasures and became captivated by ancient history, using his oil business to fund his expeditions. Caverns himself grew up hearing stories about lost treasures and ancient history from both sides of his family. He pursued various career ideas but couldn't escape his fascination with ancient civilizations. Eventually, he went to school and got a degree in anthropology. Last year, he embarked on a journey to find the mining camps his family had discovered in the desert. He explored the mines and found evidence of their past wealth, including debris from an explosion and deep mine shafts. The conversation then shifts to the topic of the construction of the Egyptian pyramids. Caverns expresses his belief that the Egyptians did build the pyramids, but he also acknowledges that there are compelling arguments suggesting otherwise. He mentions the erosion on the Sphinx and the lack of hieroglyphs inside the pyramids as points of contention. Caverns also discusses the similarities between the construction of the pyramids in Egypt and those in Mexico and South America. He shares photos of the ancient pyramids in Coral, Peru, which date back over 5,000 years. These pyramids were built by ancient Peruvians and show evidence of anti-seismic construction techniques. Caverns continues by discussing the construction techniques used by the MCH culture, particularly their ability to build anti-seismic structures. He explains that they were able to construct these structures using massive stones made of granite or basalt, which were placed on soft foundations. This allowed the structures to withstand earthquakes and settle back into place. Caverns compares this construction technique to that of ancient Egyptian sites, such as the Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek, which also used massive stones but on solid foundations. The guest then delves into the timeline of the MCH culture, explaining that it existed around the same time as the construction of the Saqqara necropolis in Egypt. He also mentions the reign of pharaohs Djoser and Otep, who lived during this period and are well documented in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Caverns discusses the significance of the Fang deity, also known as Varacosa or the White God, in the MCH culture. He explains that this deity was worshipped as the one true God and was associated with the creation of humans. The Fang deity is often depicted with fangs and is seen holding stalks of corn, which was vital to the ancient South American civilizations. The guest also highlights the mystery surrounding the transportation of the massive megalithic monuments created by the MCH culture. He explains that these monuments, such as the giant heads made of basalt, weigh anywhere from 6 to 40 tons and were moved through difficult terrain, including jungles, mountains, and rivers. Caverns dismisses the theory that these monuments were transported on balsa river rafts, as even the smallest head would sink such a raft. He emphasizes that there is no known explanation for how these monuments were moved. Caverns also touches on the use of the wheel in ancient Central and South America, debunking the misconception that these civilizations did not have knowledge of the wheel. He explains that there is evidence of children's toys in the region that feature wheels, indicating that the concept of the wheel was known. However, due to the difficult terrain, there was no practical use for wheels in transportation. The guest continues by discussing the challenges faced by archaeologists in studying these ancient civilizations, particularly the lack of funding for archaeological research in Peru and Chile. He emphasizes the importance of oral traditions and legends in understanding the history and culture of these civilizations, as they often contain kernels of truth. Caverns then delves into the practices of ancient cultures throughout history, particularly their use of psychedelics and plants to induce altered states of consciousness. He suggests that these ancient people may have had knowledge or experiences that modern society is not aware of. He mentions videos of tribes in the Amazon and Papua New Guinea who have unique spiritual practices and sing hymns that seem to connect them to something natural and spiritual. The conversation then shifts to the discovery of ancient civilizations in the Amazon. Caverns talks about the work of archaeologists who have found evidence of ancient cities and structures in the Amazon rainforest. He mentions the difficulty of exploring these areas due to the dense jungle and lack of funding for archaeological expeditions. Caverns discusses the discovery of cities made of earth and mounds, as well as the presence of canals and aqueducts that allowed for transportation and irrigation. Caverns also talks about the presence of megalithic structures in South America, such as the Tiwanaku site in Bolivia. He describes the intricate carvings and massive blocks of stone found at these sites, which raise questions about how ancient civilizations were able to move and shape such large stones. He mentions the theory that older sites tend to have larger blocks, suggesting a progression in construction techniques over time. The conversation then focuses on the Maya civilization and the discovery of the sarcophagus of Pacal in the Temple of Inscriptions in Palenque, Mexico. Caverns describes the massive size of the sarcophagus, which was carved out of a single piece of limestone. He also mentions the presence of hieroglyphs that tell the story of the Maya gods. Caverns emphasizes that such megalithic structures are rare in the Maya world, but there are indications of larger blocks and structures in more remote areas of the jungle. Caverns discusses his own experiences exploring Maya sites in the jungle, including encounters with dangerous animals like the fer-de-lance snake and jaguars. He mentions the importance of being cautious and aware of the natural dangers in the jungle, but also highlights the resilience and knowledge of indigenous people who have lived in these areas for generations. Caverns then delves into the fascinating world of the Maya civilization, highlighting their advanced knowledge of astronomy and sacred geometry. He explains how the Maya built their structures according to the geometry of flowers and used ropes to measure and construct their buildings. He also discusses the Temple of the Sun in Palenque, which serves as a calendar and clock for the solar system. The conversation then shifts to the potential connections between ancient civilizations in South and Central America and those in Egypt. Caverns mentions the similarities in architecture and hieroglyphs between the Maya and ancient Egyptians. He also speculates about the possibility of Phoenicians reaching the New World and interacting with the Maya. Caverns emphasizes the vast amount of knowledge that was lost with the burning of Maya books and codices by Spanish conquistadors. He explains how the surviving codices, such as the Dresden Codex, have provided valuable insights into Maya astronomy and culture. He also discusses the decline of the Maya civilization and the migration of Maya people to the Yucatan Peninsula. The podcast continues with a discussion about the uncharted areas of the Central American jungle. Caverns mentions the existence of a lost city called Lamha, which has never been found. He highlights the recent discovery of 60,000 structures in the jungle through litter scanning. He also mentions a man who conducted a Google Street View of the city, revealing a giant pyramid and temple deep in the jungle. Caverns first talks about his visit to the city of Bonampak, located in the Mexican state of Chiapas. He describes the impressive murals found inside the tombs, showcasing the rich artistic and cultural heritage of the Maya. He also mentions the massive size of the pyramids and the potential for more undiscovered structures in the surrounding jungle. Moving on, Caverns discusses his interest in the city of Yaxchilan, situated on the Usumacinta River. He explains how the city's alignment with celestial bodies influenced its architectural layout, with most structures facing northeast. He expresses his desire to explore the uncharted areas of Yaxchilan, where he believes there may be defensive structures and outlooks overlooking the river. Caverns then delves into the dangers and challenges of exploring the jungles of Central America. He mentions the presence of illegal loggers, drug smugglers, and refugees living in the jungle. He also highlights the issue of black market looting, where artifacts are stolen and sold for profit. Caverns emphasizes the need for caution and proper planning when venturing into these remote areas. The discussion shifts to the topic of ancient civilizations in general, with Caverns mentioning the obsession and restlessness that often accompanies explorers. He cites examples such as Percy Fawcett and Frederick Catherwood, who dedicated their lives to uncovering ancient mysteries but faced personal struggles as a result. Caverns expresses his own infatuation with exploration and the desire to make significant discoveries that will outlast his lifetime. Caverns continues by discussing his upcoming expedition in March 2024. He will be leading a tour to various Maya sites, including Chichen Itza, Labna, and uncharted ruins in the jungle. He mentions his collaboration with Egyptologist INXT, who specializes in both Egyptian and Maya civilizations. Caverns expresses his excitement for the tour and encourages others to join in the exploration of these lost cities. Caverns explains that he has recently figured out the format he wants to use for his YouTube videos. He used to create 60-second videos for his social media, but he realized that longer videos are what people want on YouTube. Therefore, he is now aiming to create videos that are 20 to 35 minutes long. He mentions that he recently made a video about the OLX and plans to touch on some of the topics discussed in the podcast in future videos. Before ending the podcast, Caverns presents the host with a gift he bought at Penn, which is handmade by the local Maya people. The gift is a clay or stucco replica of the Temple of Inscriptions, which is similar to the Temple of the Sun and acts as an astronomical calendar for the Maya people. Caverns also gives the host a Maya jaguar whistle, which is meant to sound like the roar of a jaguar. He explains that the Maya people would use these whistles to scare off enemies or as a defense mechanism in the jungle. The host expresses his gratitude for the gifts and mentions that he will keep them as they are the coolest things anyone has ever given him. Caverns explains that the jaguar whistle is not very easy to use and demonstrates how to properly make the sound. He mentions that the whistle could be from anywhere between the 14th to the 18th century or even as early as 500 AD.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe.